Hello, and welcome to the ChristiTutionalist Politics Show. Over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a listener that I can barely begin to express how much I appreciate from the bottom of my heart you being here, as I know you have a lot of options. As Listen Notes, the podcast platform says, there are about 168.9 million plus podcasts you could choose from. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me, as indeed it is just me on the podcast outside, at least for the initial episodes. All substance, no muss, no fuss, no fluff, no fancy or flashy high production inserts or intro, just straight to the key discussion points. A show that will look at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian United States constitutionalist lens. Hence, obviously, the ChristiTutionalist Politics title. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and last name is spelled Lenard, like most pronounce Leonard, but without the O, an author of a very non-traditional but Christian, nonetheless Christian book, co-host of Savaged Unfiltered podcast, and for purposes of this show, most notably a blogger for thelibertybeacon.com, from which most of the content for the show will be derived. These are not going to be long, drawn-out episodes. I just want something short for you to be able to tune into, get the highlights, food for thought. You can then delve deeper into via my online articles and reach your own conclusion. And as Graham Norton would say on his late night talk show, let's get on with the show! Welcome to Season 1, Episode 8, Norton v Shelby County, Tennessee. This episode is going to go a bit into the weeds, farther than we like to normally go. Normally, I like to try to keep a 30,000-foot view of things. Norton versus Shelby is an old case about government overreach, is the term I'm going to use here. But the actual technical term, of course, is usurpation. I want to mention an article, tinyurl.com/redpillstrategy here, and yes, it will be listed in the show notes, about terminology and the things we lead with. Norton V Shelby is not something that you're going to want to jump in with someone you've just met at the grocery store. This is for your group of friends that can handle going down the deeper rabbit holes and the more technical aspects of things that we need to discuss. It's like the Hunter Biden laptop. I was speaking with a friend the other day, Janice Gardner, no relation to Michael Gardner of Savaged Unfiltered podcast. Janice Gardner and I was talking just the other day, and she mentioned Waco and Ruby Ridge. And my reaction was, we can barely get people to pay attention to the Hunter Biden laptop, something happening right now, let alone while Waco and Ruby Ridge are important points to go down the path of all these government abuses that have been going on for a long time. This isn't new, but those are not something you want to lead with. There are certain topics we have to be careful. Our red pill strategy. Certain topics like the Hunter Biden laptop, the evidence is there. The facts are there. If we can't get them to pay attention to that and the evidence on that laptop, then it's going to be difficult to get them to go down any of the other more difficult rabbit holes, like the Norton V Shelby case. In segment 3, this show is going to have 3 segments. I'll wrap up with a 3rd segment. I will discuss a couple of 9 key points that my friend John and Ron, my friends John and Ron, with a Liberty group, put together regarding the case. I'm not going to go that deep into the weeds here yet. Again, at the start here, I want to take an overall broader view. Also, let me point out that the case document will be linked in the show notes. I use Dropbox. There will be a link to a Dropbox document of the case so that if you want to go further down that rabbit hole, please do read it, look at that for yourself, share it with others that you know are of the degree and level that can handle such. Don't overburden and overload someone who just got off their couch yesterday. This is way too deep a topic, way too harsh for them to take on early in their adventures into getting involved in politics, which ChristiTutionalist Politics show is partly about, getting people off their couch. Again, I've written a piece called Will Real Christians Save America? We can't be sitting on our couch online, blah, 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 just virtue signaling. We have to do the things that matter. We have to become precinct delegates. We have to go to committee meetings. We have to go to school board meetings. We have to go to city council meetings. We must be involved to put pressure on people, even within the Republican Party. I'm not just talking about fighting fascocrats here. I'm talking also about fighting CNOs and rhinos within. Spring, the primary is rhino season, as they say, and the fall is jackass season. You fight the rhinos and the CNOs in the primary, and you pull the Republican straight ticket in the fall, because even a rhino, someone who's only with me or you, us, 60% of the time, is still infinitely better than a fascocrat who we might agree with, 10% of the time, if that. So rhino season is in the spring, jackass season is in the fall. Let me say this: no king but King Jesus. That was a mantra of our founders, so spare us. Our founders weren't really Christian. They weren't really religious. That's all a bunch of bunk, of course, from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. There's no such thing. We have a First Amendment freedom of religion, and there's no such constitutional or law about separation of church and state. That comes from a Thomas Jefferson letter that the left distorts and takes out of context, tries to apply it as if it is some legal or constitutional bearing and legitimate restriction. And that's not true. You have no reason to not bring your Christian faith and apply it to your politics. The left, as I like to say, tinyurl.com/SomeTwistJesus's-words, their motto really is separation from church to state, not separation of church and state. And Neil Mammon, my friend, please get his book, Jesus is Involved in Politics. Why aren't you, and why isn't your church? So the deep state is like a monarchy, unelected, ungoverned with little oversight that the Congress is supposed to provide, the deep state acts on its own, filled with leftists, of course, because conservatives, ChristiTutionalists, are busy trying to pursue life and happiness, right? Our pursuit of happiness, life and liberty. They are tyrannical and want to lord over us. But again, no king but King Jesus. And these alphabet soup agencies do not, a lot of them, have any legal constitutional authority, let alone legitimate congressional authority. Many of them have way overstepped the congressional limitations put upon them when they were created as an agency by an act of Congress. And in segment 2, I will be playing a segment from a live stream, July 1st, Savaged Unfiltered podcast. Myself, Michael, and Sadia discuss some of these issues. So I'm not going to go into them here. We will go into them in segment 2. No king but King Jesus. Yes, I know, I've repeated it for a third time, right? Our founders were religious. They didn't want a monarchy. And the deep state basically acts as unelected bureaucrats we can't get rid of. They're not elected. They get hired, and you can't fire these people. The governmental unions, even FDR, the biggest pro-union guy on the planet, Mr. Progressive himself, said there is no business for being government unions. Unions are for the private sector. The government is supposed to respond directly to we the people and the Congress at our own pleasure. They are to serve, and they must go from time to time. They cannot have lifelong 50-year careers lording over us. At any rate, I am now going to go into the Savaged Unfiltered July 1st Rumble live stream we did regarding Norton V Shelby. Most importantly, pay attention to my argument with Sadia regarding the EPA and the Department of Education when it comes to the alphabet soups, and then way overstepping, overreach, usurpation technically. But again, you use that word, you're going to lose a lot of people. So yes, we have to bring it down to a level we can converse with a common language, and overreach is something everyone can understand. Usurpation is a term that is just not in many people's vocabulary. And Sadia defends the deep state. I was frankly amazed at it. And from there, we will lead into the Savaged Unfiltered live stream. And then after that, we will be back for a wrap-up segment.
Guys, really appreciate it. So welcome to today's show, guys. We're going to talk about the Norton v Shelby case of 1886. Yeah, it's an old fucking case, guys. Real old case. So why are we talking about it? Because no one is, and it should be talked about. On its way, I guess, right? Gremlins. It happens from time to time. But I want to say thank you for those who are tuning us in on Rump. Much appreciated. Bring Joseph into the panel here. Joseph, buddy. Well,
I told him a week and a half ago or so, 4 o'clock. So if he didn't write it down, well, that's the breaks. But yeah, the case is old. However, people want to try to bring it up again and make a deal out of it. It may have been too long ago. A precedent generally will only last for so long, and then other case law will supplant it. And that may be the case here, but under that, we can and could challenge some of these regulations and rulings that come out of these deep state organizations, the alphabet agencies that
Yeah.
technically are unconstitutional and illegal and are not duly real elected officials, appointed bureaucrats with no legal authority over us.
We're in. But yeah, I agree. I really do. There was a video here I wanted to plug into the show with a woman basically speaking up against this. This was an old video, folks. This is like maybe like a year ago, year and a half ago. It's old, but it's still fresh in content and fresh in relevance of what we're talking about. Before I plug it in, producer Shaky plugs it in. Where do you think, Joseph? I heard bits and pieces of it because I came into the stream as you were talking, but what do you think? I mean, do you think this Shelby or Norton versus Shelby thing is going to disappear soon, or people are going to talk about it more?
Well, it's been gone for decades. It's been basically lost. And here in Michigan, John Tatar, who ran
Yeah.
for Wayne County Sheriff in the last election, is one of a group of people who are trying to reintroduce it into the lexicon of the legal posturing and see if they can get it back into our consciousness and discussing it, and indeed find out whether other precedences have supplanted it, or potentially a SCOTUS ruling they're just not looking at or overlooking, or, I hate to say, maybe ignoring because it's not convenient. Obviously, everybody wants to posture and position and present the things that are beneficial to their side. There are, in this case, it's my side, but their agenda, our agenda in this case. I could see in the chat was saying she was looking for a Michigan case for Shelby County here, and it's actually Tennessee. Michigan is referenced in some of the materials. It brings together other states. Talking to Michael.
Okay, I think we got Sadia on here. This you gotta love live stream.
Yeah.
When other people's
Yeah.
networks are not
Hey,
working correctly. But
I'll take the blame.
we got Sadia here.
Shit happens.
So Sadia, you have any insight on this?
So let me make sure that I'm on the same page as everybody. So Shelby County issued bonds because they were indebted to a railroad company, but the people issuing these bonds weren't the actual recognized government. Is that correct?
More or less. Again, yeah, not duly elected officials. You can't have some third party alphabet agency removed.
Yeah, it definitely
without
happens.
duly
So, guys, we
being
want to put a
elected.
graphic on here. Hopefully, everybody can
Okay.
hear me. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with Rumble or yeah. Go ahead, Sadia.
So I was able to do a little bit of research, and I can understand why it's important. You can't have people running around saying that they're part of the government if they're not, and taxing property, which I imagine is what people are worried about now. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I'm upset that we're putting undocumented immigrants in hotels in New York and kicking out veterans. There is a lot. I think this is an important case. I think it's important that we talk about it now. From what it looks like, there never was a commissioner in that county. And some guy was just like, hey, I'm the commissioner. I'm going to raise this money. And that's not okay. If you claim to be a duly elected official, you had better be a duly elected official. So I think that's what I took from it.
Yeah, my concern is expanding it beyond that. The point being, again, even though a commission may be appointed, the technicality whether or not, like in this case, he was not appointed by a duly elected official. even to a commission to say he's working on behalf of the elected government. I think it can, could, and should be pushed to the Supreme Court even further that these alphabet agencies, even though created by Congress, are not
I mean,
recommissioned.
Played it simple. I mean, like this is yeah.
If they're not re-upped every 10 years, they should be sunsetted, right? The Congress needs to reapprove these agencies because the Congress changes every 2 years. They're not bound by a previous Congress. And these agencies cannot be left to be running rogue and roughshod. They need to come back to the Congress and say, here's our charter, here's our mission, this is what we intend to do. You re-up us or you don't. They can't, they're not appointed, can't be appointed king. That's the point here. We left the monarchy.
Joseph, do you think the FBI needs to establish its validity every 10 years and the CIA? Or are we talking more like local level kind of stuff?
Every agency. Half of them are unconstitutional to begin with. So yes, we have to have that discussion.
Okay, the FBI, from what I understand, was created because let's say somebody commits a crime in Nevada but crosses the border into California. To settle the argument of who has to track down the bad guy, the minute you cross state lines, bam, FBI. It's now a federal thing.
But they have gone way beyond that. Take the EPA. Richard Nixon, not all that long ago, in my lifetime, right, created the EPA, the same argument. It's just only, each state has its own EPA. This only affects cross-state issues. They've way gone beyond their constitutional and allowed authority under the laws which they were created.
Can you give an example?
The EPA and with what is the other agency regulating ponds as wetlands. You have no authority over that. That is an in-state issue. Get the hell out of my bleeping backyard. You do not have the authority.
I mean, Joseph, I agree with you, but here's something here I want to plug into the show here. With the woman reaching out in a courtroom about this issue. Like I said, folks, the video is very, 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 very old. Very, very, very old. So you're going to want to check this video out, guys.
Hi, my name is Janice Daniels. I'm with Michigan Conservative Union. I'm a board member, and I'm also a board member of the Election Integrity Fund and Force. The presentation that I was asked to make this evening was on election integrity. You might be kind of surprised because my slide says America is a republic and we intend to keep it. So what am I talking about? Is that election integrity? I think that there is a great intersectionality between election integrity and republicanism. Now, do I mean the Republican Party? No, I do not. In fact, at this point in my life, it's like boo-hiss to the Republican Party. If the Republican Party followed their platform, I would agree with what the Republican Party stands for, but they don't. And that is sad, and maybe we the people can get them to understand that they need to follow their platform. We're going to talk about good versus evil because, quite frankly, I think that this all boils down to the great battle that has been going on since the beginning of time, that is good versus evil. We have a modern-day republic in America that is unsurpassed in the history of the world throughout time. America's modern republic is so unique and so vital to success that, for example, Cleon Skousen wrote a book called The 5,000-Year Leap, in which he said the American form of government advanced society by 5,000 years in terms of the technological growth, in terms of the societal
So basically, guys, you heard. I mean, you heard, this woman reaching out, very, I guess, very concerned, about our republic. She's concerned about the well-being of our future, of, a lot of different things. I mean, everything is on the line here. Voting integrity. We feel like in the last election, that slipped away. And it was more about, people's power than for the people. And that's my own personal opinion and my own aspect of on how I'm seeing this. I'm seeing our republic, folks, literally being stripped away. It's being stripped away from its power. And, I love to get Joseph's insight on this and everything else. I think we cleared up some gremlins. We had some gremlins in the in the network, so I think it's all cleared up. Hopefully, you guys can hear me a lot better on Rumble. I do apologize. We're battling free speech, folks, on other platforms. So I think maybe accidentally Joseph is streaming on YouTube. So hopefully, if that's the case, hit that cancel button, Joe. Get it off, man. But anyway, usually when we do stream on YouTube, they love canceling us out and everything. So I think that might have been what the issue is. So I see some people coming in on Rumble. I want to get your comments. I see you. Leave the comments on there on our Rumble feed, please. It means a lot on this issue, Norton versus Shelby. And you're probably wondering, like, what the hell is this case, Michael? Well, this case goes back to 1886. Joseph, how can we, like I said, how can we restore our republic when elected officials are not even standing by the damn words?
Right. Well, number one, mama bears and papa bears need to go to school board meetings. And you need to wear a SavageArmy.com Roar Restore Our American Republic shirt when you're doing that. Hint, hint. Go to SavageArmy.com. But yeah, that woman, Janice Daniels, I know her personally. She used to be a Wham radio host. Great person, very knowledgeable, and indeed. It's funny that she mentioned about republicism. She said republicanism. I say it on my Facebook page under Martin Keeler because I have to be under an alias there. My count of 20 years was banned long ago, of course. But I say on my Facebook page, I am here for republicism, not Republican Party hackism.
Just more needs to be done. You know what I mean?
Well, part of the process is education. And we're doing that today. I wish John and Ron would have been able to be here with us. They know more of the ins and outs of it. Because I said they're kind of the ones here pushing it. Janice Daniels is part of John's group. I was there a week and a half ago signing books, signing and selling books to the group. And like Sadia was saying in the private chat, we are a republic. Yes. The word democracy does not appear in Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You one time because we are a republic, and that's part of the education in my book. And it's needed, isn't it, Sadia?
Well, yes, let's define what a republic is. If we were a true democracy, every citizen would sit down for 2 or 3 hours on a Friday and vote on all of the stuff for that week. That's a democracy. And that is not what we do. We are a republic because we vote for people who will vote on our behalf. I have 2 senators and a congressperson and city council people. So that's the difference. Now, some people argue that we now have the technology to become a true democracy, where the citizens themselves could vote and we could just abolish both houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate, and let the people actually vote. That's probably a few generations away. So a democracy is I vote on everything that affects me and affects my country. A republic is I'm going to vote for a senator. I have 2 senators, but they never run in the same year. A congressperson, that kind of thing.
But it is also important to clarify China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, they are republics too, but Their constitution lay out the rights of the government power over the people, whereas our constitutionally limited republic limits the powers of are supposed to. It used to. We've long lost it and got to get it back. It limits the federal powers. 10th Amendment guarantees it to the states, not delegated. And again, these agencies, invalid, unconstitutional. Department of Education, completely unconstitutional. That is a state and a we the people issue, and we've got to get the republic back. But yes, other nations are a republic. It's important to make that distinction, how our Western republics are set far and above apart, like from the Magna Carta, than those tyrannical government given rights versus God given rights under our republic and our Bill of Rights.
Joseph, I'm going to have to disagree with you on one thing. I think we need a federal or national board of education, because there are school districts in Texas that teach that Jesus rode dinosaurs. And seriously, I looked into this during the last election. So there is some merit in having a post office that can work in all 50 states. If you see the difference in education among, our worst states, Nevada's one of them, and our highest performing states, the facts are the facts. I don't believe Jesus rode dinosaurs. I think that's scientifically impossible.
Yeah, well, you're talking about one weird one-off anomaly. I'm talking about how the fact is education has declined ever since Jimmy Carter created the Department of Coercion rather than education. They use the stick of the money and the strings attached.
Here's the thing that we must need. We need to complete our republic, plain and simple. Plain and simple. Thanks very much for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
We are going to wrap up this episode, and first, thank you again to Michael Gardner of Savaged Unfiltered, the creator of that show, and it was the Patriot Angle before that, for allowing me to use that clip or these clips from the Saturday, July 1st live stream we did on Rumble regarding Norton V Shelby with Michael, myself, and Sadia. Thank you again for that. And thank you, Shaky, also, the producer of Savaged Unfiltered. This is just going to be a brief wrap-up. And I know some of you are going to get lost in this. We're going to go kind of deep in the weeds, a little beyond what we normally would do on this podcast, to try to stay at a higher 30,000 foot level looking at things. But there are a couple points out of the Norton v. Shelby County 118 U.S. 425 from 1886, a unanimous decision, states unequivocally and undeniably that its ruling holds that any government, federal, state, county, or local can never create a de facto office we need to kind of touch on for those who want to indeed go into the weeds. If not, you can skip to the end of the show. You may want to skip ahead. One of the key points, as pointed out in the 9 most important points regarding Norton v. Shelby from my friend John Taylor, is 1, an unconstitutional act is not a law. That's pretty obvious, right? We would think. If it is not listed in the Constitution as a duty or responsibility in the well-defined duties of the government, it is unconstitutional. Seems pretty basic and common sense there, but so many people that is lost on. An unconstitutional act confers no rights, it imposes no duties, it affords no protection to any public functionaries who have acted as usurpers and violated the United States Constitution and or their state constitution and or their local charter and can be removed from office having committed such acts. Again, pretty straightforward. 3, only the delegated authority of citizens as contained in the United States Constitution or state constitution or local charter can thereby create an office du jour, for there can be no office de facto. There is no provision in the United States Constitution, any state constitution, local charters, then such office de facto never existed. It is in legal contemplation as inoperative as though such act to create a de facto office had never been passed. I apologize. Obviously, I was reading that. I could have read that a little better. We're going to get a lot more deeper into the weeds here in this part. Jumping ahead to the 7th point. Du jour by right based on the Constitution or law passed in conjunction therewith, illegal encroachment, infringement on the duties of one's office, public functionary, anyone working for the government, either elected or appointed, delegation, the people delegate and or give the people functionaries duties and responsibilities they must perform while occupying such office as part of their job description, ratification, formal or informal, confirmation of an order, law, mandate, etc. Jumping to the 9th of 9 points, none of the levels of government, federal, state, county, or local, can create a de facto office. Again, I understand for many that may be a little too in the weeds, and I apologize for that. And I used the word usurper in there because that is what was in the document. That is the term legally for the court battles, the term that would be used for before the SCOTUS if we can attach Norton V Shelby as a portion of a case going forward to the Supreme Court regarding alphabet agencies, and the term we would generally more often use of overreach, government overreach. And that goes back to red pill strategy. You don't want to necessarily talk over people's heads, correct? You use the word usurper, and I'm afraid many, their eyes will roll in their head and they'll just walk away. So using the word overreach, but technically speaking, I mean, the word usurper is what applies. Anyway, I wanted to close off with that here at the end. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. God bless. Thank you for having tuned in for ChristiTutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you, available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you, or autographed copies are available online direct from me via terrorstrikes.info/shop. And please tune in to Savage Unfiltered podcast, of which I am a co-host. And be sure to check out more about today's discussion at thelibertybeacon.com, where my articles drop every Saturday. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. Indeed, just me on the podcast side end of things. All substance, no fluff, no fancy high production intro or inserts, at least yet, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart, as I know you have over 168.9 million plus podcasts out there you could choose from. Thank you again so much for tuning into mine. Take care. God bless.